Well, hi, friends. Hello. I'm sorry. Jerry, are you there? Jerry, I'm sorry I'm running late again. Jerry, there you are. You just showed up.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
How you doing?
I thought I was late, but you were even later.
Yeah, I was just sorry about that, everyone.
All right.
Usually I like to be on time, but
I know. Hi, friends. This is Monday, take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. And sorry, we're running late again. Actually, folks, that's the title of our show today. We're talking about, are you always late for appointments and meetings? Do you find yourself constantly apologizing like we just did at the beginning of the show? Well, we want to talk about that because it does relate to our spirituality, and it absolutely relates to us as Catholic Christians. Because if we respect ourselves and our time, we should respect others. And so we're talking about always being late. Or are you on time? Are you always prompt? You're right there. In fact, maybe you're like my mother, who's always 5 or 10 minutes early. Used to drive me crazy as a kid. But you know what? That's what we're talking about today on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. So please, we're going to talk a little bit more about this topic, and then we need your wisdom on it. 1-833-288-3986. That was pretty good, Jerry. You must have taken some acting classes in junior high or high school.
I was in drama in high school, but I know that was maybe a little cheesy. But we wanted to have a little bit of fun with this. It's a serious topic, but it's also one that, hey, life gets in the way. And I'll say this. One of my pet peeves is people who aren't on time just because I try to be. And then God shows me, he always gives me a lesson by making me late, delayed in traffic or something, just so that I can say, okay, Jerry, stop worrying about this so much. But Debbie, there's a football coach actually who, when he sets up team meetings and practices, he says, if you're on time, you're late.
Oh, okay.
So your mother would
My
appreciate
mother,
that.
Yeah. Say that again. So if you're on time, you're late.
If you're on time, you're late.
Yeah.
In other words, he expects people to be there a little bit early. But hey, folks, let's talk about this. What is it? What is your philosophy, your sort of your worldview on punctuality? 833-288-3986. Because Debbie, it's in every aspect of our lives. I've got an appointment with a medical professional today. They want me there 20 minutes early. What do you know? And I'm always there at least 20 minutes early. So I want to hear how other people approach this.
I do get, I will tell you, I do get bothered by doctor's appointments sometimes. I have one doctor that is, a stickler about being, respecting the appointments and trying to be like 5 or 10 minutes leeway either way. But then there's this other doctor I have that almost every single time I'm waiting 45 minutes. So I show up early and then I'm waiting 45 minutes after my appointment time. Now, I don't feel that that's a good respect of my time. I really don't. And I find that to be actually quite disrespectful, if you will, because my time is important as well. And so it's very interesting. It's a healthy balance. But I will tell you something, Jerry, as I got older, I now make time for certain things to happen. Like you just said, getting stuck in traffic or something. I will build in extra time when I have appointment commitments. And sometimes my husband will say, well, why are you leaving 45 minutes ahead of time? Well, because what if there is traffic? And what if there was somebody pulled over on the side of the road and it slows everything down? Whatever. So I do build in those buffer times so that I can be on time. I haven't always been on time, but I will tell you, since I've been practicing life skills for since the year 2000, I've worked really hard at it, and it's paid off because a lot of people appreciate it.
Well, and there are those situations when you want to be, if you do get to somewhere on time, quote unquote, you're going to be waiting. And an example of that would be Friday. I took my little puppy in to get his nails trimmed, and they're closed from 12 to 1. I get there at 12:30, and I get my name first or second or whatever on the list. That way, like you said, if you show up at 1, then, you're waiting on either side of 1 o'clock, so it's kind of a wash. But I prefer to wait before rather than after. Same with confession. Confessions start at 3. I'll get there at 2:15, 2:30.
So will I.
And it is a wonderful time just to sit and pray and reflect and do the examination of conscience. But, dear friends, it's in every aspect of our lives. Your job, your medical appointments, your lunches with friends, your
going
meetings,
to mass.
going to mass. So what is your What is your personal approach to making sure that you're on time? 833-288 EWTN. We need you to drive the show as always.
Well, and I think it's important too, Jerry, because we mentioned at the beginning of the show, as Catholic Christians, we're supposed to be our word. So if we say we're going to be there at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m., we should make every effort to try and be there at 9 a.m., to be there at 9:15. I know they say there's, what's that saying? Fashionably late, if you're fashionably late. Yeah, but the thing about that, Jerry, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but if you're 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes late, I don't know. I don't. Do you kind of think that's disrespectful?
It's not being responsible, for sure. Yeah, I would say you could probably use the word disrespectful. I would love to hear from people. How do you handle that when someone, you set the time aside, you're where you say you're going to be, and somebody else isn't? And does your first thought go to that place, like, gee, they're disrespecting me? Or does your first thought go to, gosh, I hope they're okay. I wonder if something happened. Maybe say a prayer for them and just kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that initial reaction on our part, Debbie, when someone is not on time for getting together with us is important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have a very, very close friend. I mean, she's just a best friend. She's awesome. And she is chronically 10 minutes late. And she's been this way for 25 years. And I don't take it as a sign of her being irresponsible or disrespectful. In fact, I always say to her, you're going to be late for your own funeral. But it doesn't bother me because she has that practice with everyone. So if it was just me, then maybe I would take it personally, but it's with everyone. And she's just, ever since she was a child, she's just chronically like 10 minutes late. In fact, I think she said her mother used to set the clocks a little bit differently just to try and get everybody on time. So, I mean, there's that as well. But, Jerry, I was talking earlier about life skills, and if we want to apply it to our Christianity and Christian life skills, it's also very important that when we respect ourselves too, that we respect our time and others and their time as well. And so I think it's really important that if we analyze this from all different angles, so that when we walk away from this very quick hour we spend with one another on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, that we've learned something and we've grown from it and we start practicing it in our daily life. So please don't just sit this out and be entertained by Jerry and I.
Don't be late.
Don't be late. Don't be late to the party. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call.
And I will say this is going to crack you up and some other people. I've been in media, especially radio, about over 38 years. And by this time in my life, I have literally a clock in my head. And Debbie, when I go out, I've got 5 or 6 errands to run, and I say, I'll probably be home around, 12:45, and it's like 12:44 when I pull into the driveway. So, I'm not saying that to be boastful. It's just that, you get that mental clock in your head, and that can be an aid in this. So let's talk about it on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Dr. Greg Popcak.
We want listeners to see that God has a unique and unrepeatable plan for their lives and how to rejoice in the work God is doing in their hearts and in their homes.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
The Holy Father's prayer intention for the month of June is that national leaders may firmly commit themselves to ending the arms trade, which victimizes so many innocent people.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
John 6, verses 48 to 58. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread, meaning me. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat of it and never die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh. At which the Jews disputed among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? They're scandalized by this. How is it that we're not? How is it that we just hear this and go, oh yeah, I know that passage? They're just outraged and at least perplexed. Sane people, inspired teachers, wise men, prophets don't say things like this.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you. We're talking about running late. Are you chronically late for appointments and meetings? That's what we're talking about today. So please weigh in on this by calling 833-288-3986. If you can't physically make it to daily mass, guess what? EWTN every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The Holy Mass at Our Lady of the Angels Chapel in Irondale, Alabama, via the radio and television. It's very exciting to be able to broadcast Mass by way of the radio and television. I remember just, Jerry, 15 years ago? That was, unheard of, especially on radio. And it's fascinating. And I love it because if you can't physically make it to Mass, EWTN's got you covered with Mass.
Beautiful. And that Mass is now being heard on 2 new stations. Real Presence Radio continues to grow in the Midwest and throughout that region of the country. We're excited to welcome 2 new stations, now part of the EWTN affiliate family. Hello to everyone listening on 88.1 FM serving Gillette, Wyoming, and AM 970 serving Austin and Rochester, Minnesota. A special shout out to Steve Splonskowski and his great team. They are doing it right, folks, at Real Presence Radio. You are all blessed to have their stations, and they worked hard to bring you these 2 new stations into their growing apostolate. So, again, welcome to all new listeners now hearing us on FM 88.1 in Gillette, Wyoming, and AM 970 in Austin and Rochester, Minnesota, the newest members of the EWTN radio family.
I love it. Bring us out to Wyoming. I've always wanted to go there. Have you ever been there?
I'm sure I've been through Wyoming. Yeah.
Through Wyoming. Okay. I would
Beautiful.
love to go. Well, welcome to the family. Okay, so there's an open phone line just for you. It has your name on it. Don't be late. Don't let somebody else pick it up at 1-833-288-3986. That's the number to call. Okay, and the first up, she wasn't late. Monica in Allentown, Pennsylvania on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Monica. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi.
Thank you so much. I really liked what you said about accepting your friend that's chronically 10 minutes late, because it's a sign of charity and acceptance and love on your part. I think a lot of people are hard on people who are chronically late, and I see it happening. And because I am late, when people are late with me, I'm much more flexible, understanding, and I take that opportunity to pray for that person because I know that they may be going through stress, self-hatred. It's very discouraging to try your best to be on time or early and to fail consistently. I did learn about adult ADD through Jeanette Benkovic's show. One day she had a speaker who wrote a book, Driven to Distraction, and I read all of his books about ADD. And there's things that I've been doing to try to help, and they help to a point. But there's just something with my brain and with a lot of people that they just can't understand time. Time just doesn't work right in our brains. So I just wanted to thank the people who are patient and accepting and work with us, and let people know that the people that are late aren't the selfish, disrespectful people that some people think we are.
Wow, thank you, Monica. Thanks for shedding this very important light on this that you did, and mentioning, like you said, the ADD or some of the other personal issues that might make it difficult for people to wrap their heads around time. I mean, I was sharing a few minutes ago about how I literally almost have a clock. I could live my entire life without ever seeing a clock and know what time it is and where I'm supposed to be and when I'm supposed to be there and get there. But that's not bragging or anything. It's just, I think, the fruit of years and decades of being in radio and having a clock, and you got to be on time and all of this stuff. But it is so important. It brings me back to, Debbie, you'll remember this, a phrase that I use often on this show from a great early Christian saint who said, everyone you meet is engaged in a battle you know nothing about. Be kind, always. And this gives us a chance to practice, Debbie, that charity that Monica was talking about. So.
Yeah, thank you, Monica, for acknowledging that. I really appreciate it. With regards to my very dear friend who's chronically late. She's an amazing person. This woman will give you the shirt off her back. She will do anything. She is so kind, so giving, so loving. And so I think, too, it's very important when we are addressing and encountering other souls, whether in just chance encounters or as in relationship and friendships, that we have to take in the whole person. Because sometimes we focus in on just the negative, and that's not the sum of the whole person. And it's really frustrating. I know, because it happens to me all the time. There'll be people that'll say stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not all of me. And so I'm glad you stated that again, Monica, and I think it's important that we remember it. We have to, as human beings, we have to be reminded several times, because in fact, I just learned this again last night, that it's not about how much we learn, it's about being reminded of how much we already know, and we know how to behave with one another. Wouldn't you kind of agree with that, Monica?
Oh, yes. It helps me be patient with people that have other faults, too. Whenever people at work are gossiping about someone, whatever about, I think of, that person must be going through her own problems, and I try to say something nice or defend them, and then people get mad at me. But I've learned a lot more compassion because of my problems.
Mm-hmm. Me too. By the way, Monica, I love your name. I could say it a million times because Saint Monica is one of my go-to saints. You're so lucky.
Thank you. I have 3 sons, so she's been prayed to a lot in this house.
I'll bet.
Very cool.
Bless you, Monica. Thanks for the call. We appreciate you being first up here and being in here, on time or early.
Yeah,
talking
you were
today
early.
on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie about punctuality, and there's no right or wrong here, as Monica pointed out, because there could be, you see people come in late for mass, especially families, and my first thought is, my goodness, the chores that they had to do
to make the effort.
The effort they had to go through to to get those 3, 4, 5 kids ready and in the van and settle down and all of this stuff. So it's just really, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to this. We're just, Debbie, asking people to share kind of how they look at it and how they approach it. So
there's just one thing I will say about that, though, Jerry, with regards to Mass, and this is no criticism. This is just an observation, because I was a liturgy coordinator for years. I worked in the parishes for over 25 years. It's interesting to me, though, sometimes families or even couples or just individuals will show up early for a sporting event, but for Mass, they cut it right to the very second. And it always fascinates me. And in fact, maybe we should do a show on it, on what's the reason behind that. Because for a sporting event, you'll go half an hour early. Now, is that because you want to be the first one to get through the gates and security and go to the hot dog stand or whatever? I don't know. But why is it that we cut it so close to when Mass starts? That always baffles me. Maybe we could do the future show on that, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, and for now, we continue along. We go to Arcola, Indiana. John, listening on Redeemer Radio to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, John. Love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, going in sync with Debbie, mine's at the other end. Why do people feel compelled to leave even before the priest has left the altar? And that always has disturbed me, quite frankly, because, we just received Jesus. Mm-hmm. The Holy Trinity in ourselves, and here you are, and you can't stay and thank the Lord quietly, and that just blows me away. The second thing is, I know the priests in the Fort Wayne South Bend Diocese are busy, but I never get a return call. I wanted to make an appointment with one priest, and the receptionist says, "Well, Father doesn't do this." Are you kidding me? That a priest won't take my reconciliation when I need a little more time. And you're telling me, the receptionist, taking upon yourself the authority to say no. And I thought, is it any wonder that people look at Catholics and leave the church after being treated that way? Okay? Their time is just as... I have 24 hours in my day as a priest does. And I understand they have things they have to drop in an instant because of death or sickness or whatever. But don't return, when you don't return my call or my concerns or arrange a time to go to reconciliation, I'm at a point where it's upsetting to me.
Debbie, you spent a lot of time working for the Diocese of Phoenix and on the parish level. I don't know if you have any reflections on this.
Yeah, I do, John. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're feeling hurt like that, because that's a tough place to be. But I have seen it also from the other side, and I understand where your come from is. I mean, you're in need of reconciliation. What I would do is maybe talk to the parish staff and find out if there's some other way, or even another priest that comes in, maybe a retired priest that comes in or something of that nature. Because I will tell you, I was a priest's assistant for a year, and I thought I was going to pull my hair out. It was very difficult to navigate his schedule. I said to him at one point, I said, Father, I don't know how you're doing this. I don't know. And he says, this is my life. And it's very difficult. So I'm not trying to just overly defend the priest, but I will tell you that it sounds like maybe that priest that is at your parish is spread out very thin and doing a lot, maybe has multiple tasks, maybe has a school involved, who knows, or maybe multiple parishes. But it's really... It can be really tough. Now, let me back up for a minute. You said about leaving Mass early. I will tell you, John, that is my pet peeve as well. Being a liturgy coordinator, I literally, one time at a celebration, at a confirmation, I literally had to hold people back and ask the Knights of Columbus to hold people back so that Father could exit the church. That's how bad it was. They were literally almost knocking Father over. And so and then I asked some of the people afterwards, why did you feel the need to rush out of Mass? And here was the reason. Now, John, call it our humanness, okay? We had a parking lot that had one entrance coming in and one exit going out. And there was 1,300 people there that day. And these folks needed to get out of the parking lot and not sit in the parking lot for 45 minutes. That was their answer. So there you go, John. There's practical life experiences that, it's our humanness. What can I say? But I'd love to hear your response. But Jerry, do you want to comment on that? I don't know if I covered the
first. I do want to hear what John thinks of what Debbie shared first. I have a couple things to share, John. But what do you think about what Debbie was saying?
I absolutely understand, and as far as defending the priest, I understand that too. They don't have a set schedule, and they really don't know day to day what's coming on. Right. But they should have at least the courtesy to have a staff member explain that to them. Father's not available right now. And this hasn't been just with one priest or three. This has been 3 churches in the Fort Wayne area that have done that. And I never receive a phone call, and I leave voicemail after voicemail after voicemail. And after a while, you sit there and think, okay, there's a bigger picture. Now, let me make this is where I'm coming from. It's a spiritual warfare trying to get me to walk away from my faith. It's not going to happen. I understand they're busy. I understand things come up in their life. I understand so much more because I've grown up in the faith and I've seen generations of priests come and go and how each one is under attack. So I understand that, but a little more care, and to have that one person in the office saying, look, Father's not available. I can't give you a reason why, but here's the schedule. That's the best we can do. Mm-hmm. And I can live with that.
Yeah, and John,
but I can't live with just no response at all.
It's true.
That just
I agree with
flattens me, and that's what that just floors me to no end. That takes away my humanity.
Well, John, let me, Debbie and I can totally relate to what you're saying. We don't know who these priests are that are involved. We don't want to know, of course. But I have been in the Fort Wayne Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend so many times, and I can rave about the priests, the men there that I've met, and the religious and so forth. So it's unfortunate that you've had this experience. I will say this: my pastor is the only priest assigned to our parish. He has about a half a dozen assisting priests, they call them. They're all retired, and they help with confessions and masses. But as far as the day-to-day stuff at the parish, most of the funerals, the anointings, the hospital visits, there's a school with about 800 kids. There are 10 weekend masses, and my pastor, by the way, God bless him, Father Howard Lincoln, is just going to be installed a Monsignor in November. he is just run ragged, and yet he manages, through his secretary usually, to email me back. So he's got his email set up, or his correspondence set up, so that when it comes in for him or anybody needs to get in touch with him, she will pretty much take care of it, and he'll jump in and get involved when necessary. So that's just one solution that I've experienced in my own life. But I want to also go back to what you were saying about leaving mass early, and I'm ashamed to say, for many years I would do that. I would take communion and not even return to my pew. This is many years ago, and I don't know what turned me around and convicted me of that, but I just realized what you were saying, John, and I thank you for reminding me and all of us again of the fact that we become literally a tabernacle when we have received Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Holy Eucharist. And just to dash out back into the distractions and the busyness of the world, especially, fighting to get out of the church so you don't have to wait in the parking lot. Those kinds of things, those things can wait just a couple minutes. So I hope we would all appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. Debbie, we're going to get to more calls here in just a minute. Take two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about punctuality. Sorry.
And we'll be right back. We won't be late.
Third Millennium Media presents Debbie Georgianni.
The world tells us not to be merciful, and we as Catholic Christians are called to take a step back and look at it in a different way. We must practice mercy, especially if we want to receive mercy.
Debbie Georgianni, co-host of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, wants to visit your parish retreat or conference. Invite Debbie Georgianni today online at thirdmillenniummedia.com.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
Ireland has just opened the door to killing its greatest natural resource, future generations of unborn babies. It was one of the most pro-life nations in the world, but now abortion to 6 months will be widely available. Tragically, the pro-abortion measure won 2-1 at the polls. The obvious victims will be the babies and their mothers, but there are others. Often forgotten in the tragedy of abortion are the fathers. Ireland's vote will result in countless fathers helpless to protect their babies, struggling with anger, grief, and shame. And they may abuse alcohol and drugs to dull the pain. As one who counsels these grieving dads, I can tell you, men hurt too. Pro-lifers in Ireland will nobly rush to the aid of those victimized by abortion. I pray dads are on the list.
Follow us on Twitter at Life Issues USA and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
You remember the time I said on the air, go to confession. And when you're done, go out and have a big ice cream soda. Celebrate. And a man wrote to me, he says, I hadn't gone to confession in 30 years. Do you mind if I went and had a pizza? I said, have 20 pizzas.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
I'm Brian Patrick. Tomorrow, the author of Celebrate Catholic Women, Catherine Fowler Sample, and our godly counsel has been Senior Charles Pope. Morning Glory on EWTN Radio. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Wow, this running late show has really triggered some hot buttons with some comments. We got some great social media comments coming in. This is awesome. We're having a great, vibrant discussion. See, this is when we can learn and grow. When we have these discussions, we may not all agree on things, but we walk away a little bit changed. We learn something and we grow a little, and that's great. A big comment just came in for John that was just on the phone. John, I hope you're still listening. They said that they, at their parish, this was the comment, at their parish, they offered to help out. Maybe the parish staff is overworked and maybe just overwhelmed, and they offered to volunteer to help out, to maybe keep a schedule or to maybe move people to deacons and other leaders in the church. And so, John, that's interesting. Maybe offer to volunteer to help out a little with the scheduling. That could work. I agree. I agree with what John said. I think courtesy is a big thing, especially in the parish staff. We have to be courteous because we are the first on the parish level, Jerry. We're the first Jesus that folks see, especially when they come off the street to inquire about the Catholic Church. So it's very important to make that first impression.
Okay, 833-288-3986. Do you tend to be on time, early, maybe a little bit late sometimes? What about when others are maybe a little bit tardy to a meeting or a lunch or something with you. What do you think about that? Do you feel offended, or do you kind of first to turn your thought to saying, a little prayer like, I hope they're okay? Do join us, as Leslie has. She is listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN app in Leavenworth, Kansas. Hi, Leslie. Welcome.
Hi. How are you guys today?
Great. Thanks for your patience and welcome to the program.
Thank you. I was just going to make a comment. I have a very dear friend who we've been friends for, 12, 13 years. She has 5 kids. She's homeschooled them all, start to finish, and is always late. Always. Never fails. So what I started doing was telling her if we had to meet at a certain time, I'd tell her half an hour early so that she'd be there on time. And even though she knows that I do this with her, she still, it like puts a different mindset in her mind. And so she's able to be on time at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm chuckling, Leslie, because I actually did that with my friend about 10 years ago, and she I don't know how she knew. She just knew that I had set the time earlier, and it was hilarious because I couldn't get that one over her. It didn't work. So with your friend, but you sounds like your friend knows that you do that. So that's actually a healthy exercise, I think. It seems like it's working for your friendship and keeping it on time.
It does, actually. It really does. And I hope that, she can be able to, as her kids get older, be able to, because I think she wasn't late before she had kids. And then
kids will make you late.
You have 6, 7 people to get ready. But anyway, she knows I do it. It just puts it in her mind differently, and it's a good thing. It works.
Yeah, but I think that's a practical life skills exercise, actually, that you're doing with her. And if she knows it, you know it, it's working. I think keep doing it. That's awesome. Maybe I should just reapproach my friend again and ask her if she'd be willing to be open to that. That's a good idea. You just gave me a great thought. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thanks, Leslie. All right, Christine is going to be next, but we just got an email at take2@EWTN.com from Laura in Fort Wayne. And Laura is going to put, I think, a very poignant perspective on this idea of leaving Mass early. And this is very much right on the nose for some people. She just says, in response to your discussion about leaving Mass early, and the gentleman, John, who called, she says, I work on the weekends. I must leave church early. I feel awful, but I don't have an option. I must leave St. Jude's 7 a.m. Mass at 7:40 in order to be at work on time. I'm always worried about creating scandal. If it weren't for the 7 a.m. Mass, I wouldn't be able to attend church at all on my working weekends. So, Debbie, there again, necessity does sometimes create situations like that, and we need to be thinking in our minds, like maybe that person has a need to, get out of here in a hurry. So
Right.
It's not
That's
always the
very
case.
true.
Not always the case, but Laura reminds us that sometimes it is.
I agree. You got to take each individual circumstance. I agree. Christine has been waiting so patiently in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Christine. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. Thank you very much. I enjoy your show. I want to take issue, though, with one of the comments I heard earlier that you made, Debbie, and that is that you thought that it was disrespectful for your physician to keep you waiting 40 minutes or longer. And I am both a physician and a patient now since being disabled about 7 years ago. And I would take issue with that. When I go, I tell my doctors if I've been waiting, I actually thank them because I know and I trust that the time that I am waiting is time that they were spending that needed to be spent with other patients that went before me. The medical profession and care of patients is not flipping a switch, and you can't simply always do it just faster. So I would just try to put that positive perspective on this. Right. And I also want to say that doctors are put under a lot of pressure from people in administration, people who don't take care of patients, to produce and to cut time with their patients that really would benefit their patients. So those are two main points. I think it's really hard on physicians to have that pressure put on them when they really do want to do what is needed for each and every person. And unfortunately, that does take time, and sometimes people do have to wait.
Right, right. No, I totally understand that. And thank you for sharing that, because that really does help me. I think, and I'm not, please forgive me on this, I'm not trying to argue in any way, shape, or form. Here's the thing, that, because I have a nice relationship with a lot of the physician's assistants, I'm mainly talking about this one practice that I go to that has many physician's assistants, and I actually ask them, why is it that they keep people waiting so long when they want us there 15, 20 minutes early, and then they'd still have to wait 45 minutes? And they said it has to do with they have to have so much volume of patients every day. They came right out and told me. And I found that to be really odd, because here I'm on time and I'm doing everything right, and I'm now 2 hours at a physician's assistant appointment. I'm not even seeing the doctor. So it's kind of a little odd to me. I mean, I understand that you have to pack so many in, I guess, for whatever, but so I don't know if you can answer that, Christine, but that's what I think kind of did it for me, where I thought, this is not really respectful. So you see where I'm coming from when I get an answer like that. Like, your answer sounds so much better. I can digest that and accept that. But their answer seemed like it was like a mill, like a factory mill. What do you think about that?
Well, I guess that's my point, is they're having pressure put on them to produce and turn patients around. And that's not something that necessarily physicians want to do. And because of our physician shortages in many different specialties, the care is being delegated, at least for some patients, to other ancillary healthcare providers, namely physician's assistants or nurse practitioners. And so I think there's a lot of complicated issues here that probably need to be addressed, and I don't have the expertise to explain it all. But I can tell you that as a physician, I was an anesthesiologist. And when in doing our cases, they actually kept track of our times taking a patient into the operating room to the minute.
Wow.
And we were put under a lot of pressure to have to get patients ready and have to be, in the room at a certain time. And sometimes, because of patient issues or things beyond our control, you just can't always produce at that level.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
That makes complete sense.
Sorry. So I do think there's a lot of levels here that need to be addressed in terms of the whole system. But it may be something to, I would suggest maybe going to the administrator of that institution and finding out why that's happening, because the administrator should, and I think the emphasis should be to the administrators, that the pressure put on the providers to, crank out so many numbers of patients seen in such a period of time is not good for the patients or the doctors. I don't think they want to be late. And I think they want to be able to feel that they can spend the time needed with you. And that's for the physicians, too. But I do think there are some other underlying problems with shortages of physicians in many, if not all, different specialties.
Real quickly, Christine, real quickly, Christine, before you go, Jerry wants to weigh in on this, but I have to just say something, because Christine said she was an anesthesiologist. I just have to say, I love my anesthesiologist. When I had my 2 surgeries for cancer, I just want to say, you have such a specialized skill, Christine. It is awesome. I don't know what I would have done without my anesthesiologist. So thank you so much for the work you do. Jerry?
Well, Christine, I just wanted to validate what you said about having that attitude when you're you go to the doctor, you wait out in the outer waiting room, then they take you in and you wait some more in there, and it can get frustrating. But I definitely need to turn my thinking around more on this, and I think we all do, to realize what you said. It means if they're a little bit delayed getting to you, it means they're providing the best, most compassionate, and thorough care that they can for somebody else. And I will say about my primary provider, who is a nurse practitioner, she is never in a hurry to leave me. She said, "Is there anything else? How is this going? Let's look at this. Let's talk about this." And it's just so I really feel respected and valued, even if I do have to wait sometimes 20, 30 minutes for her to get in there after I've been taken into the visiting room. So anyway, good stuff, Christine. Thank you so much for sharing with us here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We appreciate that. We're going to get on to some other calls here, Debbie. Who's next? Can you?
Who's next is Blanca. Blanca in Houston, Texas, on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Blanca. You got to follow Christine. She did a great job, but take it away.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for your program. I love it. Yes, I was raised in Mexico, and culturally, for some reason, people are late. So when I came to America about 20 years ago, it was a cultural shock, and it's taken me a few years. However, I see the difference and now I understand respect and all these aspects of being on time, which before I didn't understand. So I'm very happy that in America people are on time, and I learned that here in America, so thank you. And that's my experience regarding time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Blanca, I have to tell you, you heard me say that I was a liturgy coordinator and worked at the parishes for over 25 years. I used to always just marvel at these Spanish masses because folks would come in 10, 15 minutes late, but then they'd stay later. And it was like a big, just a festival, kind of an experience, a family experience. I loved it. I love the Spanish masses because it's so family oriented and it's vibrant, and I love that. But I noticed that right away when I first started working at the parishes, and I thought it was fascinating. But then I started thinking, I wonder if this is like a cultural thing, and you just confirmed that. And I remember being over in Italy, and the same thing. There was more of a lax of just kind of chill out and relax. Don't worry about the clock so much. So I think, and I do appreciate being on time, Blanca, but I will tell you, I like that kind of laid back attitude as well. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I know what you mean, because we can go to the extremes, right, of being kind of a sergeant. So I understand what you're saying, but I get it about respect. Now I see it, and I learned, and which was hard to arrive if I was a little bit late, to say, I apologized. There was traffic, and I understood that. I learned that it was good to give an apology and a reason for it. And before that, I never learned it in my family. My mom and dad never taught me that. It was not culturally taught. So I learned a lot, and I was educated regarding time. And I do appreciate that to all the people that put up with my late arrivals for so many years, and God bless them. They still love me, and so I'm trying to be understanding. Like you, I'm very understanding with people who are late, because I'm like, oh, Lord have mercy. I know exactly what this person is going through.
Well, you're a beautiful soul, Blanca, and you've really been very, very candid in what you shared, and it's beautiful that you've learned maybe a little bit of a different approach than you were raised with. But like you said, it's a cultural thing, and I when I spent a summer in Mexico studying Spanish as a seminarian, we were so blessed to be able to go to a priestly ordination. And of all places, Debbie and Blanca, people were milling around and talking and having conversations. And I'm going, wait a minute, this isn't like any other ordination I've been to before. And the folks who were, our instructors and part of the facility where we were studying this is just the culture here. It's a little bit more laid back. It's not disrespectful, but it's just that way. And I just said, wow, I experienced something different, and I learned. Mm-hmm. And Blanca, we have learned from you today too as well. So appreciate you joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Have a great day.
Yes, thank you, Blanca. Call anytime. We love it. Can I just share something real quickly about church pop? I love church pop. There is some fascinating articles right now. I'm not going to have time because we have all these calls and all these social media comments, but there are some fascinating articles on church pop. Church pop features the new online Christian content. It's fun, it's informative, and it's inspirational. And you learn something every single time. It pops up in your inbox. It's so cool. You can find it on Snapchat, Instagram, and on the web at churchpop.com. Check it out, folks. It is so awesome. Churchpop.com.
Yeah, I wonder who came up with that. That is such a creative idea.
Yeah, it's great.
Back to social media. Joseph on Facebook, EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook page says, I try to never be late. I have been on occasion, and this is even though I often realize do to realize how much it takes to be prepared to leave to get somewhere on time. Diana said, I'm guilty, ! I'm always late, especially to family meetings and birthdays. They are so mad all the time. Well, we hope that they won't be mad at you, Diana. And Mike on YouTube said, one of the lessons my dad taught me early on, show up 15 minutes early and it will go a long way for success. So some weigh-in from our viewers,
Yeah.
Debbie.
He should call back when we're doing what our dads, wise wisdom of our dads that we're doing
June
next
6th.
week. June
That's
6th.
Wednesday.
Oh, that's Wednesday. That's this week. See how time is flying? Okay, Peter in Worcester, Massachusetts on Emmanuel Radio. Hi, Peter. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Oh, okay. I was calling on one thing, but I wanted to follow up on Blanca's thing. I was reading one time an article on comparing Italian drivers to American drivers. And they said Americans are always rushing because they have to arrive at a place at a certain time. And Italians don't care at all what time they arrive. I guess what it said. Just like to speed, so that was what I read on that. And then the other thing was my sister, who's a nun out in northeastern Ohio, she said there was a sign in front of a church, a Catholic church, that said the first person to leave Mass early was Judas Iscariot. So I thought that was funny because I was going to ask her, and then I was early, So I thought that was funny.
That's right. We had a little bit of a bad connection there with Peter, but Debbie, I've heard that too. I've heard, I think Scott Hahn or somebody called it the Judas Shuffle, right?
Mm-hmm. Judas Shuffle. I've heard that. I'm just still chuckling about Italian drivers because the one exception to that, Peter, is if we know that there's a hot Italian meal waiting for us, we'll hurry up and get there. Okay, we will get there. Got to get there when the Italian meal is hot still.
All right, Peter, thanks for the call. Got to move
Peter.
on, get a couple other folks in here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about punctuality, being on time, being late, your approach to that. We've got Mary next, listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on Guadalupe Radio in Houston. Hi, Mary.
Hi. I just wanted to comment. Growing up in our parish, we were always asked to be prepared for the final blessing. And the priest would say sometimes he was going to give us the triple blessing where we would respond, Amen. So then he would say, now I send you forth to be a blessing to others after, the closing of the Mass. And so I always anticipate the final blessing. I don't like to leave the church until we receive the final blessing. And, of course, the priest comes down the aisle. But even lady friends now, they say, oh, yes, we want the final blessing. And it's so beautiful to receive that blessing and to know you're going to be a blessing to someone else. And I did want to comment on John. He's very considerate of others because there's times when you do go to the confession, whether it's 15 or 30 minutes before Mass starts, and you are in the line, and some people do take a little longer. But I think he would have a better chance in talking to his parish priest if he was to maybe go in line, get in line, and be one of the first ones in line, and letting the priest know. Maybe the priest could then talk to him about getting a time, or even I have gone and I've prayed to the Blessed Mother, I prayed to St. Anthony, say, please make sure I can get into the confessional if I'm running late, and also for a good confession. And since I do that quite often, I try not to take too long, but there are times when others, have to take long, and I understand that. But I think that the Lord is aware that we are so desperate in that state that we're in that, by praying to the Blessed Mother, St. Anthony, someone, there's always a way. When there's a will, there's a way. And I also have taken up the practice of praying for my confessor. After my penance or before my penance, I offer an Our Father, a Hail Mary, and a Glory Be for that which they have done for me. And I thank God for them. I've had that practice maybe maybe about 5 years, and it just came to me one time. I think it was the Holy Spirit. So I do try to share that with others to please pray for your confessor.
I think that is a beautiful practice, Mary, and I really have. I mean, I pray for priests all the time, but I don't know that I've ever really zeroed in on, when I'm waiting in line for confession, for the priest praying for him before he hears my confession or afterwards or whatever. So I'm going to start doing that. And I think your suggestion about, the priests are busy. We all know that, but they make time for confession. So, John, if you're still listening, maybe that's something you want to do. What Mary suggested, get in the confession line and just very, very politely and charitably just say, Father, if you have sins to confess, make your confession and say, by the way, Father, I've been trying to get an appointment with you. I know you're real busy and you haven't, had the opportunity yet to call me back. Is there some way, a means, a method by which I can get a meeting with you? And he'll probably say, yeah, just call the parish secretary. So anyway, those are just some thoughts from Mary in Houston. And Debbie, who are we going to end with today?
We're going to end with Donna in Florida on Queen of Peace Radio. Donna, take it away. You are our final caller for today.
Okay. Hi. I just wanted to let you know that I think some people are programmed to be late. When I was a child, I was kidded about being late all the time. And it was almost like my parents were prodding me towards being late. And I'm realizing as I get older, we don't have to deal with our childhoods anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really working on it.
Yeah, Donna, I'm the same way. I had to work on it, and it's really been beneficial to me. I feel good about showing up on time. As a matter of fact, it's like it's become a game for me. When I get there even a minute or two ahead of time, I'm like, yeah, I did it. I'm so excited. And so you just practice. They say practice makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. And so we have to practice new ways of doing things, not the way we were, like you said, programmed when we were children or trained when we were children, or even we've gotten used to as children. We can break that at any time if we have the commitment and the intention. So I'm right with you, Donna. Let's do this together and be on time. I think this has been a healthy show, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Donna, for the call.
We need this show every once in a while.
We do. These are the things that we talk about here, everyday life on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And Donna, you and the others who have called today and those who call every day, and your emails and your social media comments, your takes drive the show and make it what it is. And so we really, really appreciate it so much. Just real quickly from Haas, our friend Haas on YouTube, Debbie, he says, I'm never late. The military made me early. I am always early at least 15 minutes. My friends hate it because on trips I'll expect them to be early to get going. And then on the other side of that coin, email take2@EWTN.com. Barb said, when I worked in a traditional setting, I was never late. But now when I'm retired, I give myself permission to be late when the situation is, all caps, not critical. However, I'm never more than 10 minutes late. I see nothing wrong with that. So Haas and Barb, thank you for adding your 2 cents worth.
And we've got some suggestions that we revisit this topic, Jerry, and address it primarily to couples, because we've had some comments come in that one spouse, the wife is always early and the husband's late, or vice versa. And so they want us to address this again and talk about how do you navigate that in a marital relationship when one is on time and the other one's not. Very interesting. Amen. I say we do it.
All right, let's do that. And we've got a lot of other shows coming up. By the way, June 15th is the 3rd anniversary of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're looking forward to that, kind of anticipating that. Tomorrow, Debbie, we're going to talk about what beneficial change have you made in your life? Decided to lose weight, start praying more, cut back on your drinking or smoking, or attending daily mass, or switching jobs. Debbie, we're going to ask people to weigh in on a beneficial change that they finally made in their life, and they say, wow, I should have done this a long time ago.
Right. So we're talking about change tomorrow. Sometimes people say, oh, change is so hard. Well, we're going to talk about the benefits of change and how it has changed your life for the better. So join us tomorrow on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.